Welcome back to another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. I guess I owe somebody $10 because the day before this actually came out. It took years of delays and confusion, but it's here, it is real, and we've played it. I'm not really sure. I wish I had, though. Maybe you could sense some of the skepticism in some of the videos where I've talked about this game actually coming out, but I was a little worried about the quality of the game, because if you remember, it was revealed as a great big graphical powerhouse showing off all of the new Unreal Engine stuff, and that was several years ago when all the Unreal Engine stuff was a unique selling point that nobody had. And that's not the case anymore. Now there are quite a few very good games using the latest Unreal tech, and this is not one of them. Like, there's no getting around it. This game is a mess. There's endless bugs, the servers are totally broken, the gameplay is anemic, and it's missing basic features that you would expect out of a multiplayer game. Before I can talk about what the game is, let's clarify what it is not. The Steam page describes the game as a post-apocalyptic, open-world MMO survival game, but it is really just an extraction shooter. That's it. That's all the game is. If you couldn't tell from gameplay, that's what it is. You start a base with a store and some storage. You go out into the city, collect loot, fight other players. Sometimes there's one or two zombies around, which are basically harmless 90% of the time. It's just a PvP game. There's nothing here that's MMO-like at all. The only survival elements, might I add, are that you can eat food, which is something that, yes, you do have to do to survive in real life, but I'm gonna say that that doesn't make a sim, and even it doesn't really even matter in this game. So the game is simply not what they've been advertising it as for years. There aren't any immersive elements whatsoever. If you like extraction shooters, that could sound like good news, but even with that in mind, in the current state, the game is not possible to recommend. It doesn't matter how much you like extraction shooters. The day one experience was a damn disaster. This game had no beta, no test phase, so I anticipated the first few hours would probably be a mess of server issues, and chalk it up as another time I've been correct about something. I'm not going to say that this one was like incredible prescience, though. Like, that's a pretty normal expectation for something with no beta or test phase at all. And I'll say this, like, I was able to start the game in the first few minutes, but the graphics settings were all messed up and I had to reset it. And then I spent about an hour staring at the server screen, getting frustrated, tried to join a server. I mean, it took forever, and then I was finally blessed by a game and got in, only to find my character falling through an infinite void. So there's issues. The only solution was to delete that character and try again, which meant another half-hour clicking hopelessly on allegedly open servers until I really finally genuinely got into the game, like was able to use it. And what's my reward for all this frustration? Well, the opening cutscene bugged out, and for a while I was trapped in the starting room. Not a great first impression. And then what follows is a really slow tutorial where the game attempts some lame world building. There's no other word to better describe it than that. There's just bland nobody characters that you're not going to care about. I don't understand why we couldn't just have a menu like in Tarkov with this crap. All the running around back and forth between vendors is tedious and not particularly useful. You're constantly stopping my storage, so why does the game force you to click through a conversation prompt? And why is storage the second option? Why is it not the first option? I know that sounds like a minor complaint, but it's one of those things that most games have figured out, like it's just standardized and easy to know what's wrong. Like, the day before is full of these kinds of amateur mistakes. During the tutorial, where the game introduces another mechanic, the homestead, and by the way, this is probably the last time you're going to go there. It's completely pointless in the current state. But it's this place you can build a house and place furniture around, and that's all you can do. There's nothing else you can do. That's it. It's just a money sink. You buy things when you run out of stuff to buy for your character, and you put it there. And by the way, you're going to run out of stuff to buy your character pretty quick. There aren't a lot of guns, and most of them are pretty easy to find. Yeah, talk to anybody in the shamelessly named Woodbury, you know, like the town from The Walking Dead. And the game finally lets you travel to New Fortune City, the open world map where all the extracting and shooting takes place. For all the game's faults, I will say the city, while hardly MMO-sized, is pretty good looking. There's a decent amount of points of interest to explore. They're fairly varied, they're complex, and it can sometimes look downright beautiful with all the settings cranked up. In isolation, the city looks great. Unfortunately, performance issues are a constant problem. I experienced a lot of stuttering, a lot of slowdown, even though the game itself isn't actually all that system intensive. I think most of the performance issues, though, probably are because of the servers. I can't say that for certain, and I'm sure somebody more technically inclined will be able to explain it within the next few days. But either way, there was a distracting amount of slowdown that just shouldn't be in the game at all. Like, it's one thing when a game is incredible, it's got tons of stuff going on, and it's really successful to the point where the developers didn't expect it and they're having to play catch-up. It's understandable when that type of a thing has this kind of slowdown. It doesn't make it good, and they do have to fix it, but this is not even that kind of thing. So I'm wandering around, and you might be noticing a small problem. The problem that I indicated in our big new games of the month list, I don't really know what's going on. There's just not anything here. Look at this. There's barely anything going on. There's nothing here. You can spend the vast amount of time running around Fortune City and never see another player or even a zombie, which, by the way, this is a zombie apocalypse we're talking about. Generally, the thing that causes the apocalypse is pretty plentiful in that type of a setting, but no, the actual zombie population is very, very small. And when you do run into one, they ain't impressive. Zombies tend to appear in small numbers, they get stuck in the environment easily, and they're just not a threat. As long as you're moving, they can't hurt you most of the time. Sometimes, for seemingly no reason, they do hurt you, but most of the time a brisk jog is all you need to outsmart them. They'll chase you forever, and they'll never actually hit you, at least until you find another one, and the first one just despawns right in front of you, because that happens. This is where I got to fire off a few shots for the first time, and man, this may be one of the most unsatisfying shooters I have ever played. Well, no, I shouldn't say that, because I've played like failure, no-budget asset swap games, but this is not that. This is billed as like a AAA experience. But there's no feedback to anything you do, from firing a gun to hitting a zombie. Like, it's just floaty and slow and crappy. It takes seconds for a zombie to actually react to getting shot, which sounds like, oh, that's fast. No, it is not fast. The time between getting shot and reacting should be none. That's how bullets work. And when it does, it just kind of flaps over. Look at this. I can't emphasize enough how bad the shooting feels in this game. It's slow. It feels desynchronized. It's really unbelievable. Like, look at this stuff. This is how shooting looks like and feels in this game. The zombies might as well not exist, and other players are even more rare. Even when playing on a full server, for most of the time with the game, I actually managed to see, and I'm not kidding with you, one other player. One. This is the only other guy I ever saw. Every other encounter with another player, and I say that because you don't actually have to see another player in order to get shot randomly and have no idea where they are or where their shot came from, but that's all of my other encounters with players. And even that was fairly rare. I could play the game for an hour of just wandering around not getting a whiff of another player. So getting headshotted out of nowhere, it's almost a relief when there's another person in this world. I am not alone. Wow. This is an extraction shooter, of course, so standard rules apply. Anything you've got on you when you die, it's gone. That alone isn't a problem. It's a staple of these games for a reason. But there's the potential for real tension when you know all the weapons and kit that you worked hard to get could be lost at any second. But the fundamental flaws of this game get in the way of that tension and thus any fun that could potentially be had. This is the most basic, but there's a reason most of these hardcore extraction shooters are first person rather than third person. With third person, it makes it way too easy to just find a hiding spot where nobody could ever possibly see you and wait around with perfect oversight. Really, this game is a camper's dream. As long as you have the patience to wait around for 20 minutes or, just stand still, waiting for somebody to just show up. Basic shooter features like directional hit feedback and directional sound, they aren't in the game, so even if you do get shot at, good luck knowing where it came from. Oh yeah, and even though it's a zombie survival game, there is no melee. To make matters worse, the geometry's broken all over the place. It gives campers really easy hiding places that make them, effectively invisible. Like, I managed to find one without even trying. But these exploits cut both ways because it's just as easy to get trapped somewhere with no way out. Even turning the game off and reloading isn't enough because when the game turns you back on, you reappear in the same spot you left, so you're effectively trapped forever. The only way I was able to get out was to get a zombie to kill me. Otherwise, I would have had to have deleted the character and started over. The game, it's just full of these nonsensical design decisions. Why is there a lean button in a third-person game? Also, it's worthless. I tested it. Leaning seems to not give you any benefit whatsoever. You can't actually even peek around corners effectively with it. Jumping, also worthless. There's no climbing or mantling system, so getting over even the tiniest of ledges is very annoying. If you ever try to climb anything, most of the time, you're just gonna get stuck. And oh, the water. You know how water is a life-giving thing that we need to exist? It kills you here. It doesn't let you know that you're taking damage from the water. You just drop dead out of nowhere while swimming. No tunnel vision, no red jelly on the screen, nothing to indicate you're taking damage. In general, it's just extremely hard to tell if you're taking damage in this game, or really anything at all. You know, there's minimalistic HUDs that are still functional and, like, intuitive, and then there's the day before, where there just isn't a HUD. You get an ammo count in the corner, and that is it. Want to check your health? Gotta open the inventory. Want to look at the map? Stop the game and look at it on your screen. Oh yeah, and the map does not let you zoom out, which I guess has to be to, hide how small the map actually is, I guess. The one thing the game has for you to actually do in New Fortune City is complete missions, which are just the most basic fetch quests imaginable. But the quest markers are so huge that finding the things people want is so tedious, I must have just gave up. Like, the stuff is very small, the markers are very big, it doesn't actually indicate where it is, and the map might feel pretty big at first, but it starts to feel rather small and samey after a while. All the trailers made it look like this world is a massive space, but it's really closer to the size of the map in The Division. In a lot of ways, this game feels like a worse The Division, especially in the dark zones. You can see a lot of the Division influences in the way the city's designed, but they tried to turn it into a hardcore shooter, and it just falls apart. The Division games feel like third-person shooters, whereas this feels like a first-person shooter that's in third-person for a bewildering and nonsensical reason. I can't emphasize enough just how empty this game feels. Most of my time spent playing the day before is just wandering around collecting loot in silence. No zombies, no other players, just nothing. It would almost even be relaxing if the threat of dying out of nowhere wasn't always in the back of my mind. At a certain point, the only thing keeping me playing was to see what other bugs I could find. And then there was the time I quit the game and suddenly my guy looked completely different. Or seeing whatever this was when loading the game another time. I will say the game did contain one of the most amazing bugs I've ever seen in a game. Just look for yourself. It's glorious. Look, what is going on with this guy's body? His head is gigantic. His arms are huge and twisted. It's wild. It's an all-timer of a glitch. 10 out of 10 for bugs the day before. I've seen a lot, but I've never seen anything quite like that. But I think you get the idea. The day before in its current state for $40, which thankfully isn't $70, but it still isn't worth it. It's so rough, even when giving it the benefit of the doubt as an early access title, which, it's simply not the game Fantastic tried to sell us. And while some players are probably going to be like, oh, cool, an extraction shooter. No, false advertising is probably the least of this game's problems. The shooting is weak, the map is small, there's not much of a hook to the extraction gameplay, it's very bare bones, it's very empty. As anyone might have expected, I've played quite a few of these games at this point, so I know there is an expected amount of downtime between actual fights, but this game is almost all downtime. And not like meditative downtime, but nothing is happening downtime. Even if the game actually felt good to play, there's just hardly anything that ever happens, and that would be a fatal flaw. But again, the game doesn't feel good to play. It's one of the most empty, lifeless open worlds I've ever seen. The controls are not good. Responses, feedback, all barely there, if there at all. And when the game isn't just falling apart from bugs, it's boring. The day before has over 10,000 Steam reviews. Most of them are negative, and it's not just because of server issues. The server issues actually mostly got resolved in the first couple hours because most people with any sense just refunded the game before the return window was up. There exists a world where the developers can possibly turn this game around. It's happened before, but Fantastic does have a spotty track record with their other games, and I'm fairly skeptical that this game is ever going to improve. That doesn't mean it won't happen. Anything's possible. If they made off with a ton of money, maybe they can use it in the same way the No Man's Sky devs did. But again, like No Man's Sky wasn't delivered in this kind of a state on top of being kind of empty. Everything about this game is unsatisfactory and not acceptable as a $40 release even. Don't spend money on the day before. Maybe in a few years it'll be better, but right now it is a boring and broken mess. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Gameranx.